Morning. We got 3 time zones in effect today.
That's true.
3 time zones. So it's 8 o'clock here. John, what is it? 11, right?
11 in Phoenix.
11 in Phoenix. And hang on, 2
p.m. in Toronto.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm getting my time zone math dialed in finally. Did you know that like there's a difference between EST and EDT?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Standard, like one of them is daylight and the other one's standard.
Yeah.
I learned that this year.
It actually messes you up with appointments in Arizona because Arizona doesn't move time zones, right?
We don't do
Hawaii.
That's right.
Yeah.
Doesn't move daylight, I meant. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, coming up June 10th and 11th, we have the annual 2024 Pivot Marketing Workshop.
Yes.
That was the fake cheering, in case you guys didn't catch that. Lucas, you've been a partner with us in this event for a couple years now. Tell me why.
Oh, that's okay. Good question. Well, one is because of John. My relationship with John dates back quite far, back to my Luxor days. And number two, which is kind of the bigger reason, is I think the members of Pivot are people that value certain level of sophistication when it comes to sales, and you don't find that everywhere in the industry. I think when we talk to the people that are part of Pivot, they have bigger plans. They understand where they need to go, and they're a better fit for kind of what we do.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm going to mine a little further.
Sure.
Tell me why you think that is from your perspective. I think I know the answer, but
I do too. I know why it is because, again, going back to back when John and I met, John actually participated and was a speaker at a Luxor conference in front of my clients, which was sales driven. That conference in Clearwater, I believe it was in Florida. Yeah. And I can't remember. John, do you remember how many years ago that was?
Oh my gosh, no.
10, 15? It's got to be something like that.
Maybe like 8 or something.
Okay, maybe 8. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a while because I sold in 2016. So it's got to be, it could be like 8 to 10 years. But yeah, so John has a very specific look at sales / marketing in our industry. And there's a lot of things that John teaches and communicates to his clients that support exactly what we teach as well. It complements each other. So I think the people that join Pivot learn certain things from your group and accept the sophistication that we bring to it much easier than those that have never done it. Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking when Anthony asked that question. What our two perspectives are very similar. That's something you and I talked about, making sure that there was that we didn't want to confuse people by sending out different sets of training. I think our two models are quite complementary, very consistent with each other. We're saying basically the same things. And so you guys, I think, do a great job of kind of where the rubber hits the road in helping marketing folks really be more effective when they're knocking on doors and interacting with their target markets. We've been really proud to partner with you guys because it's just been so complimentary.
Yeah, thank you. And likewise, we work with a number of clients from Pivot and send clients to Pivot because there's definitely alignment, not only in what we do, but even if we start with somebody that isn't a Pivot client and they're starting to grow, it's not far down the road that they need assistance in other areas and the ability to take advantage of all the other stuff that you guys bring to the table. So either it comes one way or it goes the other, but it works. Yeah.
I like the word alignment. That was perfect.
Aw. Should I grab a guitar and light a fire and we can sing Kumbaya?
It's just a good word.
So John, we did something a little bit different with this year's marketing workshop in the way that we've structured it. We have don't crucify me for not knowing the specific titles, but we have kind of an intermediate track and an expert track, as I would call it. How would you title it?
Yeah,
give me like tell me why. Give me the why.
We went back and forth on that because the language matters, right? And so we decided that in the end, session A and session B was the way we were going to label these guys. And I think, just conceptually, session A is really for those that have not been exposed to our program. They don't know the language, they don't know the method, and so we wanted to create an environment unique to them. So we have a lot of companies in Pivot that are new to Pivot, and their marketing reps are new to the program. So session A is the one that we're going to encourage them to be in. I'm going to teach that one myself. We also know that for folks that are not part of Pivot, who want to come to this workshop to check us out and just to get some great marketing training. I mean, obviously we've got, Sanktum, Pivot, and Virtual Vision all partnering up to deliver an outstanding 2-day workshop. So those folks would be best in session A. Session B is really dedicated to people that have been doing this for quite some time. They've gotten traction, building a brand. They're signing up and locking up business in their territories like crazy. It's working. They want to expand. They need maybe some help with managing a marketing team, doing some market analysis, some competitor analysis. I mean, these are definitely more sophisticated topics. But I would hesitate to brand it as beginner versus advanced. I think that's the wrong language. Session A is really about the folks that just need to learn the program, just understand what we're doing. There's 3 parts of it. We'll be teaching, of course, the whole marketing strategy in terms of building a marketing plan, which includes building a brand, having a value proposition, identifying your target market, blah, blah, blah. Then we get into the sales piece of it. And then we get into some goal setting and accountability, the 3 legs, if you will, of our marketing program. And then in session B, again, it gets for those folks that have gone way past that, who really have learned to master that. And what's nice about having Lucas and his team come in is they take what we do as part of the sales process and go much, much deeper. It's more sophisticated, more advanced. It's a great fit. And I think that will be available to people in session A and session B. So it's not like you're choosing one or the other for the whole 2-day workshop. You can go, between the two. In fact, we have several segments that are for all attendees. There is no breakout. So when Lucas and Sanktum are speaking and Virtual Vision are speaking, and we have a couple other segments there, we'll all be in the same room at the same time.
Awesome. Right. And what was the intention that we had in designing it that way? Why did we create a track A and a track B?
Well, that really came from Pivot members themselves. We've been doing these workshops, gosh, for I don't know how long now. And as we're growing, I mean, it worked well in the beginning, Anthony, but as Pivot continues to grow, we're growing quite rapidly right now. We found that those that have been coming to these workshops for a while that understood this didn't really want to sit through some of the training where we rehashed the program because we had some new folks in the room and I had to bring them up to speed before we could progress. And we said, you know what? They were asking for more. And we said, okay, we're just going to double up our effort here. And we'll still have to bring folks up to speed that are new, but we'll also have these breakout sessions. So Paul and Barb are going to handle those breakout sessions and give those folks that have been coming to these workshops now for many, many years a different experience than they've had before.
Awesome. And I happened to check yesterday. We expanded the size of the marketing workshop this year because we had so much demand last year.
Yes, we've had to book, larger meeting spaces, multiple spaces. So it's just, it's growing along with all of us, and we're very excited about this year.
It's on everybody's mind, right? If you think about it, 2023 has been a tough year, right? We haven't had any major weather events that generated some of the cat work that most are, relying on for some portion of their revenue. So there's been a lot more focus on sales. At least that's what we're seeing, right? We're having a lot of people reach out and say, we want stability. We want stable, reoccurring kind of work coming in that we can control. That's not relying on program work and TPA work, right? Mm-hmm.
Lucas, I'll totally back you up on that one. We just finished, we had 6 of our pivot groups met in the last couple of months. or last month rather, and that was the dominant theme among all the groups that were meeting. The common consistent thread there was that leads were down in the first quarter because of weather events. But what's interesting is that, and you make that point, this is about not being dependent on weather for our business. You know, claims didn't go away.
Right.
And our members continue to, even though leads were down, we're not seeing any drop in sales and revenue. That, you know, our clients are staying, you know, above all that. And you know, somebody's getting the claims. It's not that claims stopped. They're out there. The question is your company getting the lion's share or not?
Right.
And so I think that's where, again, part of this alignment with us is that we're not going to be dependent on weather events and cat losses and things like that. We're going to help people understand how to lock in that business. To us, cat losses is just like a cherry on top of a well-frosted
home
cake.
run. We need to go for singles and doubles, right? Like that's what you got to build the business on. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
No, and I'll just say, like, anecdotally, in, you know, watching some of the chatter that's happening inside of our pivot group chats, and then the chatter that I've been watching on social media, the resonant theme around sales and marketing has been accountability, 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 right? I think, you know, when we look at the landscape of restorers, most of them, you know, to use our model, John, where we've got strategy with target marketing plans, we've got goal setting and accountability for the accountability piece, and then we have our sales process piece for how to actually go out and, you know, walk that conversation through. The accountability arm of that seems to be where most restorers are finding the majority of their struggle. And so I'll ask Lucas this question first and then kick it to you, John. Sure. Why do you think accountability is the area where most are finding struggle right now?
Well, in restoration in particular, and it's not just right now, it's been the theme forever since I've been in the industry, at least, because our industry is unpredictable, right, for the most part, which means the consistency isn't there from a standpoint of managing and guiding salespeople. Right. While you may have all the intentions as an owner to conduct a weekly meeting with your salespeople and have a specific cadence and structure for that meeting, a loss happens and you're running off to that loss. And now this meeting doesn't happen. So I have many people ask us, why is it that, you know, I'll throw a number here. You know, in 2023, we ended the year with 36 restoration companies that we managed the sales teams for. We had 106 BDs under our management. We generated over $600 million on those BDs. We averaged over $6 million per BD, right? And the question always comes to me going, you know, what out of all the things that you guys do would you say is the number one thing? And it's hard to answer that question because without all the pieces, the system, the process, the forecasting and all that stuff we do, it's all combined. But if you ask me which one is the most important and which one moves the needle the most, it's the consistency and accountability. The fact that you meet every single week, the fact that you're there to support your salesperson. I don't think it's said enough that when you interview salespeople and you ask them, you know, why you leaving or what you didn't enjoy about the previous job, the common answer is always going to be, oh, micromanagement, this and that. Like that's the famous dreaded words from a salesperson, micromanagement, right? But in reality, salespeople thrive when they get clear direction that they believe in. Period. Like full stop. Like you give people clear direction that they believe in, you do it in a consistent way, you will have success skyrocket with a salesperson. And so accountability is where it's at, the weekly meetings.
I see John open at the bit over here. Go ahead.
First of all, he's exactly right. I think I completely agree with what Luke is saying about that. I'd like to add a couple things.
Sure.
One is that I don't know that business owners truly understand what accountability actually is.
Good point.
You know, I talk to people about that, and there's all kinds of misperceptions about what it means to hold somebody accountable. You know, and frankly, a lot of people tend to avoid conflict as human beings. And they think accountability is conflict,
which it doesn't have to be.
So there's this mismatch there, and it becomes really problematic. So part of what we do is completely change all of that because it has nothing to do with that at all. I think the second thing that makes it hard is that when you're like you're saying, you made a great point about they want their goals. They want to know what the expectations are, right? That needs to be clear, the clear direction. And the problem is that I see is that a lot of business owners should say, "Oh, just go out there and market and bring in as many leads as you possibly can."
Right.
Like, no, you can't do that. That doesn't work, right? There's no measurables. So one of the things that we do in our models is that we actually have them calculate the number of leads that they need to bring in order for the company to reach its produced revenue goal. Right. So the company sets this goal of X millions, right? Or worse yet, let's say it's the fourth quarter of the year and a company say did $5 million last year. And they're sitting around the table planning for the coming fiscal year and they go, well, let's do 6 million, right? They pull a number completely out of thin air. We're going to do 6 million. Marketing reps, go out there and bring in all the leads. Right. And then they're upset when that doesn't happen. So we actually force them to do the math, right? If you're trying to generate another $1 million in produced revenue, given your close rates, average size job, right? Just a couple of basic.
How many more leads do you need, right?
How many more leads do you have to bring in the door? And then the next question, obviously, is what will be differently next year than last year that will allow you to bring in another 150 leads? You can't just say, go get them.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly what's going to allow that to happen? What will be different? Do you have a new value proposition? Do you have more staff? You know, another marketing rep? Are you getting traction on a brand? Do you have historical trend lines that support the growth? Right. Just this list of things that you can take a look at to see if this math model is even possible. Is 6 million even possible in that scenario? So, so I think we apply that kind of math to it. We help them understand what accountability is. And then give them the tools that need to go out there and actually do it. And that's what I love about you guys, because then you guys can actually help them be more effective when the boots hit the ground and you put all this together and you've got a dynamite program.
And I'll kick in my own 2 cents on accountability because I'm, you know, like you guys don't see it, but I'm actually chomping at the bit over here too.
You hide it much better than we do.
Well, you know, it's like the Aloha chill, right? So the, you know, 2 things on accountability. Number one, you know, so nothing has brought me more joy in my professional career than watching individuals rise to their maximum level of potential. And the hard truth is, without accountability, you never get to see people shine, right? Like people shine because you set crazy goals for them and you go, look, like I'm with you. Let's go do this together. And it's crazy. I agree. But you know what? The combination of what we have here, I think it's possible. Let's go do it. And a lot of the times, you know, when I'm talking to restorers and they're having a hard time wrapping their head around the concept of accountability, I distill it down to like a basic function, which is most people have, like, they've understood that they need to have a weekly meeting. Okay. In that weekly meeting, do people make commitments? Universally, yes. Like, hey, we've identified this problem. Somebody says, I'll go talk to Mrs. Jones and I'll take care of it, right? Who's writing that down? And then are you following up in the next meeting to be like,
make sure they got done?
Talk to Mrs. Jones, right? And universally, like there tends to be a glaze that happens at that point. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like we need to start doing this. Like there needs to be accountability for the words
even
that come out of your mouth in a meeting.
Yeah, even people with the best intentions, you know, like if they don't have the structure and haven't been taught the structure, they'll make the first steps because they get jazzed in an event, they hear about something, right? They go do it. But there are 10 other steps that you got to take afterwards to follow back up, bring it back up. Did it get done? And is everything we're doing going to lead to the extra 150 leads, right? Or are we just doing busy work, right? Like some salespeople, a lot of salespeople or other marketers do busy work, you know, so it's important to make them believe that the actions they're going to take are going to lead to the results and not. This is a big one actually in what we teach. Like I know when we're working with a client that things have clicked when the following happens. We meet weekly with each individual business development person. We hold them accountable and so on and coach them and obviously guide them and help them. But we also have a group sales meeting that we host once a week for a company, right? And the meeting normally starts with, what's the best thing that happened last week, right? In the last 7 days, right? And it comes from the model of mastering Rockefeller habits or EOS and so on, right? And when we begin an engagement with a client, a lot of the salespeople or marketing people will reference something good as being, oh, I had a great week because I got 3 jobs. oh, I got a great week because I landed a big fire, right? And I know when things click with what we teach, when that language changes, which usually takes 3 to 4 months, and all of a sudden they start referencing success as things they truly control, which is, I had a great week because we had 4 probe meetings, which is a very in-depth meeting that we teach, right?
Yeah.
And I had my first referral from two clients that we were waiting for a first referral where we estimated it should come in by July. It actually came in. When they start connecting the dots that this is what success is, they no longer find themselves, in a bad mental space when they go through 4 days or 5 days without a job, and all of a sudden they're like, am I doing things right? Do I need to change something? Just keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, and everything else will happen on its own.
Okay.
Right? So,
can I jump in on that one?
Yeah, go.
It's exactly what I think you're referring to. Like in our accountability model, we separate effort from results.
Yeah.
Right. And what you're saying is that previously it was all about just celebrating the results. A fire came in, right?
That's right.
Phone rang 3 times. I agree. We shift over to quantifying. What we do is we quantify the effort.
That's right.
And so you celebrate the victories. If you're supposed to get X number of points for your marketing effort for that week or whatever, you can celebrate that win when you know you did that. Because if you manage and put in the right amount of effort in terms of a quantitative qualitative aspect, the results will come.
That's right.
It's a byproduct of all of that, right?
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think one of the cool things that we do is that we actually graph that, right? We look for correlation. We quantify effort. You obviously can quantify the results. That part's easier, right? But when you correlate the two,
that's right.
What you're looking for is that relationship. If you see an increase in effort, you should see a corresponding increase in results, right? If everything is working properly, it's almost like dials on a machine, right? You turn one and everything happens. And I think that's, to me, that's the litmus test. That's the measure that we're doing things right, because that's when you start to hire more marketing reps. When you know that what you're doing, you got this thing dialed into the point where you can actually almost predict what your lead count's going to be based on quantifying the effort going in, the input. That, to me, is a great time to think about expanding your marketing staff. I mean, that's another mistake companies make, is they're out there saying, well, things are going well, I think I just need more marketing people. No. Right? That is the last thing you want to do, right? So when you see that you're getting traction, when you see the correlation is working, that enough pieces here justify replicating what you're already doing.
Right.
You just need their body to go out and actually do more of it.
Yeah, no, it's precisely the same thing, because the industry we do for some large clients, when we engage large clients, sometimes we do ROI modeling. And one of the use cases that we use in ROI modeling, which is a common case that we tend to use, is time to finding out if a salesperson is going to be successful or a marketing person is going to be successful. So I don't know if you know this, John, but in our industry, what we're finding is that on average, an owner will keep a marketing person for a period of 12 to 16 months, a bad marketing person. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Because we're separating results from effort, which we do similar way that you do. It allows us to understand in under 90 days if we have the right person, because we don't have to wait to see if we're going to get jobs, because we know if they're doing the right things. We can monitor the things, in the first 4 weeks, first 8 weeks, and so on. So it's one of the ROI modeling tools that we use, where, in best case scenario, we'll know in 90 days, worst case scenario, maybe 120, if somebody's successful or not. And we don't wait till, year and a half or year and 8 months or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's what kicks in after you've made the hire. I think that one of the things that we tend to focus on too is making sure you're getting the right hire in the first place, right? Yeah. The selections process is really quite nicely mapped out so that we're at least stacking the deck in our favor, right? The odds are, if they can pass through these filters as part of a selections process for hiring, right, you're likely to end up with somebody that's going to work out. But you have, we can all get through an interview. We can all get through, if we need to. But once you're actually in that job, then you're right. What you're talking about is necessary to kick in. And the sooner we know if it's not going to work out, the better. I mean, why continue investing in somebody if it's not going to pay off?
Right.
Okay. So yes, no question. Can you guys handle a yes or no question?
Yes, but I'm just kidding.
All right. if you had to start from scratch and you only had this information, which is okay, so would you prefer to hire a business development rep from inside the industry or outside of the industry? I guess it's not yes, no. It's inside or outside.
That's not a yes,
I
no.
violated my own structure. But look, what would you say? Inside or outside?
Outside.
No other information.
Outside.
Outside. John,
Yes.
inside or outside? No other information.
No other information.
Yeah, John hates it when I force him like this.
God, that's
You just have to do a simple answer, because I could have done a long-winded one too, but you got to do a simple one.
I'll agree with you.
Already
on
taking too long.
If I had no other information
Right.
whatsoever, then I would say outside. But I'd have to
Okay.
explain why. And I don't know if that's the point here.
Okay, John, I'll let you go first on the why. Tell me why. Why outside?
Because I think that if you hire somebody inside the industry, you're likely to get somebody else's reject.
Yeah.
You're gonna get baggage, right? Now that's not to say that there aren't good people out there looking for another job, another company, right? They could have all kinds of legit reasons for wanting to leave their prior restoration employer. It could have been bad culture, right? There could have been a number of issues that caused them to want to leave, and you theoretically could have a good person out there wandering out looking to get hired by another restoration company. I think the odds of that are relatively low. And I think that I found the business to be quite incestuous in a sense. Like when I was with the family business in Phoenix, what I noticed is that every time we placed an ad, we got somebody from another company. And I'm thinking, wait a second, these aren't all bad companies, right? What's going on here that's causing all this ridiculous movement? We were just shuffling
the same 10 people,
the same people all over again. So I think that, I think you have to look at the unique situation of the person, but in general, with no other information, I think the odds are better to get somebody from outside the industry.
Okay, I got to piggyback on that.
Of course you do. It wouldn't be a Lucas and John show if you didn't.
So I concur everything that John said, and I think the most important thing is that when owners tend to want to hire from within the industry, because there's owners that actively pursue that.
Oh yeah,
they're hoping to cut the corner and get somebody that potentially is going to bring business. Okay, book of business. Okay, I recently had an owner, I'm not going to name names, say to me that they were on a call with somebody from our industry that we all know, and that somebody told them that if they want a large loss salesperson, okay, like somebody that's going to go out there and land large loss, the only way to do it is to buy them from another company. And I was like, that's a total wrong advice, right? Because so I think when you're hiring from within the industry and that's your objective, then you're trying to cut corners because you don't want to onboard them, you don't want to educate them on the restoration market. And I second the fact that there are good people out there, and I've hired good people for clients of ours that used to be in another restoration company. But for the most part, you want somebody that's coming in and approaching the industry with a new look, because our industry's been changing and rapidly changing in the last decade. Like, it is not the same thing as it was 30 years ago. And sales is changing with it.
You said something I thought really important there that triggered this, that this idea that if you hire somebody else as marketing rep, you take that market share away from that restoration company. If that's how you're set up with your marketing and your company, you're responsible for that vulnerability.
Yeah,
like that should not exist. That's not how this works. If the only thing that compels a client to give your company business is the relationship they have with your marketing rep, you're in trouble.
Yeah,
because you're right. If that person does leave, there goes $2, $3, $4, $5 million out the door. That's the dumbest thing that we could possibly do. And so while relationships are important in business, right? I'm never going to understate that, state that. There's so much more that has to tie the lead source to the company than just that relationship. In the end, that marketing rep is a conduit. It's not the end all be all.
But John, how much have you seen? Because when I look at all the people, and every time a client hired somebody that was coming with a $3 million, $5 million book of business, the maximum I have ever seen in the last 18 years in the industry, okay, is 15% that they were able to bring through.
Wow. I've never quantified that, Lucas.
Maximum.
I've never quantified that, but I will absolutely take your word for it. I mean, that would not necessarily surprise me. And I think that's a good thing, right? I mean,
yeah, it's a great thing because most salespeople think, and most marketers think in our industry that because they have the relationship, the client's theirs. But in reality, yes, you started that relationship, but the flourishing part of that relationship happens based on the work you do, the service you provide, the way you take care of their clients. And I'm not dismissing, look, I'm always on the side of the marketers and salespeople. Like that's who we work with, right?
Yeah,
but I think getting your head really big around the fact that you own all these relationships is a mistake, and it rarely proves to be true.
You are nothing without your team.
Nothing.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to think of it, Anthony. They're just one piece of a larger puzzle.
And one of the things that I used to do to drive synergy in that way was because common, right? Like production folks working late on a job, big commercial job, whatever the circumstance. And you want to feed the boys or the ladies, right? Like you want to take care of the people that are producing product in the field. Ops managers not allowed to buy pizza for the folks in the field. Had to be biz dev, and they had to show up and deliver it. And you want to talk about like a simple move that drove synergy? Like who doesn't like the guy that shows up with food?
With the pizza, yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so I think that, like that was just a simple solution, but I'm always challenging our clients, like, how do you drive synergy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's just biz dev running around doing what biz dev does, you're missing out.
And then the perception continues in the business where the salespeople are just golfing and drinking, and we're working, ding, ding, ding. Right?
So I think I have one more piece of that too. Then it's not only production and the company sort of having the marketing reps back. Right. The marketing reps out there as the face of the company, promising, blah, blah, blah. Right. And you got to have your back covered. You got to have production and sales estimating, all the folks inside the company working together, as Anthony said, as a team to pull this off correctly. To me, that's about half the battle. And I'll tell you why. Because I think delivering a high quality product or service is what I consider to be a baseline expectation. The clients already assume that's going to happen. That's what's supposed to happen. That's what we're in the business of doing. I think what makes this compelling and what the marketing reps value is on top of all of that is to communicate and create that value proposition. What's the extra value that this company offers that lead source above and beyond the fact that we're going to meet all their baseline expectations for a high quality restoration product, right, and service, right, given the backing of my team. So it's going above and beyond that, but the marketing rep has a responsibility to communicate to that team that has his or her back what that value proposition is, what that person is out there actively working and getting to the marketplace on behalf of the company, so that the team can go, I can get behind that. Like that's important. Like I understand what we're doing, how we're benefiting them, on top of the fact that we're just doing our high quality restoration jobs. So you got to add that on top of it to create that compelling reason why the market would choose your company over your competitors.
We all suck, clean, and rebuild. So how are we different?
I'm gonna patent that.
So okay, I have two more.
Water, build walls, and clean things. Right.
I have two more questions for you guys, and we have 20 minutes left. I'm betting we can't do it.
Oh, no, we can. Of course we can. This was supposed to be half an hour, no?
Yeah, right. We already blew through it, man. Sorry. All right. Follow-up question to, recruiting and hiring. So we universally agree outside the industry, directionally better with no other information. If I forced you to pick one background, one phenotype, like what does this individual's resume look like? If they're coming from outside of the industry, where are they coming from? You only get to pick one. Like a previous job, you're saying? Yeah, previous car dealerships or hospitality. Where have you seen the greatest amount of success? They have this background.
So rather than getting specific about an industry, I will say, because that changes with time. I'm going to box you in. I got to be able to see it on a resume. That's fine. So I'll answer that. Okay. So I would focus on seeing prior experience in companies that value sales education. And what I mean by that is, if you take a look at companies such as Rocket Mortgage, you take a look at companies that are like Enterprise Rent-A-Car, CoStar, Apartments.com. Like, as I'm naming these names, these are organizations that pump education and sales training into their salespeople. More importantly, these are organizations that rarely have salespeople that stick around unless they're performers, because there is a pretty high turnover in those organizations. So what ends up happening is, if you've got somebody with a 3-year at one of those organizations, they have got to be a superstar, because over there you're only as good as last month's numbers, right? So when I, assess the people that I've been hiring in the last, let's say, 3 to 5 years, that would be one of the areas. And I'm not saying it's the only one, right? There's others, and I could answer this in 2 other ways, but this would be one of the things that I'd be looking for.
John?
I don't think I could add anything to that. I say the exact same thing. I think we run the risk, though, and I think you put on an important caveat there. What I don't want is for the viewers of this to say, okay, I'm just going to go out there and screen for anyone at enterprise, right?
Yeah.
There's way more to that story than
Correct.
A word on a resume. But in principle, I mean, everything you're saying, I got nothing to add to that.
Here, what I would say that trumps all of this? I would say you want somebody that's passionate, approachable.
Oh, now we're going beyond. Now we're
right.
going beyond
but at the end of the day, and I'm just thinking, somebody just hired a 22-year-old salesperson that had no experience, but the energy this person brings makes us want to work with that individual and invest in them, right? So I think everything, like, it's like personality assessments and everything else, like, these are all just tools,
right?
And you pull all of that together to build a picture of, is this the right individual for you?
Yeah, I think you want to be methodical with that, right? And you made a great point about these assessments, right? People kind of get locked in on one.
Yeah.
They way overstate the influence that should have on the overall hiring decision. I think you have a number, and it's not complex here. I think it's actually fairly simple. Number one, I'm going to want to have a core value match for my company. I think that's number one, 100%. Right? I think number two is, we love Lencioni's material about the ideal team player: hungry, humble, and smart. I think there's a profile that would correspond nicely for an ideal sales type person, right? So if it's hungry, obviously would be something you'd probably value there. But I think where you get in the meat of this is to take a look at the competencies, because you want to be clear on what you need so that when it walks in the door, you're more likely to recognize it, right? So you come up with a list of competencies that you believe are necessary to be successful in this job. Things like being a really good listener. Right. I mean, I'd put that, near the top of the list. Somebody you can communicate well, right? You need somebody to be able to communicate your value proposition, listen to the client's needs, things like that. Are they trainable? Are they goal oriented? These kinds of things. I think you want to get specific about it. And I would put experience dead last. I mean,
that's exactly my point.
Dead last. But I would say for all of these things, whether it's core values, whether it's ideal team player match, or whether it's competencies, you need to make sure that you have some way of being able to measure that. Like, how do you know that this applicant shares your core values? How do you know they're an ideal team player based on that? He's got it right there, right? How do you know where they fall on the scale? You'd have to assess them. And then if you have a list of, 4, 5, 6 competencies that are important and necessary to be successful in the job, how do you know that's what you're getting in your applicant? That's the reason why you use assessments, is to line all that up so that in the end of this whole thing, you're going, okay, I have a pretty high degree of confidence that the person I'm about to hire here is a good match for what I need. And I think is what I referred to earlier, stacking the deck in your favor, right? And then giving them that very aggressive, not aggressive, that's probably the wrong word, but having a robust accountability period of 90 days to really ensure that this person's able.
This is the right individual. This is the right player, right?
Yeah.
Going back to what you asked, Anthony, we teach the WHO method by Jeff Smart and Randy Streets. So WHO, the A method for hiring. If you think about this for a second, like, we train ourselves how to, handle category 3 water and this and that. One of the most important things that you're going to do in your business as you grow is hire people. And there is no hidden trick to hire the right person. It's a skill. It's something that everybody should be studying. If you intend to grow, I think we can all agree, and I used to make the statement that one day when I sell Luxor, which I did, and I didn't follow through on that. But I always said my next company is I'm going to be making shoelaces, and they're going to be one color only, and I'm going to have no employees, because like it's so hard to hire employees, right? But if you think about it, right, it is something that I think everybody should be heavily investing in to improve their likelihood of hiring the right individual. And we follow Who method, and I mean, to the core. You've said some things, John. You don't want to be hiring somebody based on your gut feeling. Like, how many of the viewers that are watching this have interviewed somebody and they sat across from somebody that seemed to be really nice, and all of a sudden the interview changes and you start selling them on the job, and you're like, oh my God, they can also do social media in the back of your head. You're like, they can also do that. And you've hired somebody that can do 20 things, but they can just do the right thing that you're hiring for only somewhat good. But you've just sold yourself and them on the position and like ignored all the markers, right?
Lucas, I almost think it's more of a crime of opportunity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you know you need somebody, and then you somehow stumble across somebody, right? Just for whatever set of circumstance, and you're like, and then you want it to work out so badly because you need this, that you just start to invent this world where they fit in beautifully. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's a crime of opportunity is how I view that.
That's a great way of putting it.
I always say a broken clock is right twice a day.
Twice a day.
Yes.
Very true. But no, you're totally right. A great way of putting that.
All right. So looking at our agenda, right? This is an action-packed agenda. And if you haven't had the opportunity to take a look at it, we've got it up on our Pivot member website. We also have it up on a Facebook event. Just look 2024 marketing workshop Pivot and you'll be able to find it. Lucas, your section on day 2 is titled Converting a Client Interaction into a Commitment. Mm-hmm. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah. So again, our industry is quite famous for having a sales strategy that revolves around donut dropping and, branded pens and stuff like that. And those that have elevated their sophistication have kind of stopped and paused at the point of, I'm not only going to do that, I'm also going to show up and make them sign an ERP agreement or a priority service agreement, right? And everybody hides the requirement to obtain a commitment behind these things. They don't want to actually do this because salespeople need to be coached to overcome that uncomfortable way of asking for business and getting client to commit and understand that what I'm coming in with is valuable. I'm not bothering you. I'm not here bothering out of interacting with me, right? And not feel bad about interrupting somebody's time or booking somebody's time. So I think in our industry in particular, it is critical to get people to understand that anytime you interact with a client, your job is to do a couple of things. One, confirm to yourself that this is somebody you want to keep investing time into, okay? Mm-hmm. And 2, if you're investing and you're offering something, it's perfectly normal to expect something in return and get comfortable about asking for that. So teaching people how to have those conversations and how to take an interaction that you have with a client and be able to lead that conversation in a way where the client may give you the commitment that, you know what, we are going to give you a try on our next event,
Love it.
And asking that in a precise and a specific way that doesn't make you sound like a used car salesman or, overly aggressive, but also is committal. It's something that puts the client's feet to the fire a little bit. And it's no longer, hey, are you going to give us a try? And you spin on the heel and you walk out. And then the rest of your marketing strategy becomes about showing up every 30 days going, did you have anything yet? Like, unacceptable. That's not a sales strategy. So I hope I
always draw like I make parallels back to like our relationships with our significant others because I think there's so much value in that. And like I will tell you, one of the things that makes my wife so attractive to me is the fact that she calls me out on my shit and is direct in that way and asks for what she needs from me.
I was just about to ask if you have a relationship with my significant other. I didn't know what you were referring to. But
yeah, right. Like, I think we all can relate in some way, shape, or form when I talk about stories of our significant other.
No, you're totally right.
So, John, our marketing workshops have become famous for our panel discussions. We have a panel discussion inbound about plumbers and plumber relationships. give me a little teaser. Like if folks are showing up, what can they expect?
So yeah, that's actually my second favorite part. What I think that's your
John's subtle way of being like, nice try, buddy. You missed the boat.
No. That's your hint that I want you to follow up. No. Panel discussions are great, right? Because this is an opportunity where, like, we've done plumbers, we've done agents, we've done property managers, right? Different target markets and different types within those markets. But it's a chance to sort of just sit down with them in a very relaxed way. You're not selling. This is not a real client, potential real client. You can't really do any damage here. You can't screw it up. It's a workshop after all. But you get a chance to really sort of, kind of peek behind the curtain and really ask a lot of questions about what life is like from their point of view. What's it like when they interact with restoration companies? And again, there's no threat here. It's not like this is somebody you're going to potentially do business with. Everybody's guarded. You're not getting the whole story. Everybody's saying, image management going on. Everybody's trying to be careful. None of that. You have a chance to really talk to these people and find out what's it like working with restoration companies, or what do you need? What are the issues and problems that you have, from your side of the desk? Where are the opportunities for us to add value and have a really frank conversation to finally get the stuff all out, so you have a better sense of what you're working with in that particular target market, so that when you do go back home and you're going to interact with these people more directly, you've got really valuable information about what's going on inside their head, right, before you start to interact with them.
You have some understanding of their world. It's kind of like a peek behind the curtain. It's awesome. It's great.
Exactly.
And so what's your number one, John? I didn't tee it up.
Thank you. I'm going to use this. Hit it right back.
Yeah, right.
Guys, the part I absolutely love, is it's when the attendees volunteer. We don't make anybody do this. We encourage it. We can't do everybody. So I think we have room for about 6, maybe 8 max people to stand up and volunteer. And what they do is they stand up in front of the room as if we were a group of whoever they're pitching to. Maybe a bunch of agents, or maybe we're all plumbers, or we're all HOA property managers, whoever they need us to be, right? We're the audience. And we're going to listen. And they get up to the front of the workshop. And we video record their presentation. So they do their actual pitch. We call it a step 5 presentation, where they're laying out, by the time they've completed all the other steps in the sales process, we're now ready to kind of reveal and pitch to them everything that we're going to offer them in our value proposition. And so they communicate that to us as a workshop audience. And we video record that. Everybody sitting in the room has a critique form in front of them that they're taking notes on. And at the end of that presentation, which usually goes about 10 minutes, right? We stop the camera. Everybody makes their comments on their sheets. And then we spend about 10 minutes giving them this verbal feedback about what we saw them do that we thought was really effective. I mean, we want to try to encourage and reinforce the positive aspects of what they're doing well. If there's some things that we can constructively critique, we'll do that. And then at the end, we'll gather up all the pieces of paper and we hand them to them and go, here is the feedback that from the members in the audience. Now, what is amazing about this, it's the hardest presentation these folks will ever make in their entire life.
Right.
Okay. One time, honest to God, we had a woman had to leave the room and she went and threw up. She was so nervous.
Oh, no.
You can't make this up, right? And she was a wonderful woman. I absolutely loved her, but it's an intimidating environment. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. The amount of feedback, the value, the quality of that experience is so high that you emerge way more confident as a presenter, right? If you can survive that, you can survive anything out in the wild. And so they go out there with this super high level of confidence going, you know what? I pitched at a Pivot marketing workshop. It doesn't get any, better than that. And now I am fully prepared to go out there and with a great deal of confidence and be more effective because I know what I do well. I know what my opportunities are. I see what I look like on camera, my mannerisms, how my posture, all kinds of things that are coming up. Now, we know that a workshop presentation is not how it actually happens in the real world. It's far more informal, far more relaxed. But that's the point, right? That's the point, is to highlight that difference there by putting you through something on a volunteer basis where you emerge then with a great deal of confidence. It's my favorite part of this workshop, and it usually those slots, the volunteers fill it up rather quickly. They're there because they want that experience.
But user beware, you may vomit.
Yeah.
It only happened the one time. Yeah, and that's funny. I really try to soften this. I try to let people know, look, you're in a workshop. We are unbelievably supportive. We're going to put this big giant hug around you, so you feel comfortable. And really, whether it's men or women doing this, it's the same kind of human experience that they have, right? But the value they get is off the charts. So I try to soften it, make it look, this is a workshop. We're here to support. You're here to learn. This is not, nobody's going to die here. There's no reason to get that upset. But just as people, it's hard to get up in front of an audience and talk. When in reality, you're probably going to just talk maybe to a couple people at a time. But again, if you can get through this, you can get through pretty much anything. You are good to go.
I've been reminded of the quote from The Rock, right? Losers whine about how hard things are. Winners present at the Pivot Marketing Workshop.
Yeah, they're the real champions. Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Well, we are at time, and we ran quite a bit over than what I expected to. Lucas, thanks for giving us extra time and sitting here and hanging out. John, as always, I think the world loves to see you and wants to see more of you. So thank you for your time today. And to everybody out here in Facebook land, June 10th and 11th, it is at the Westin at the Detroit Metro Airport, which means you can fly in and you can leave pretty quickly.
Yes.
Depending on your connections, you may be able to land Monday morning and leave Tuesday night and not miss a day of work on Wednesday. We try and make it super convenient, and registration needs to be completed by May 20th. If you want a slot and you want a hotel room, you got to register in the next 11 days.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for your time. Have a wonderful day.
It's been a pleasure.
Aloha.
Thanks,
John.
Anthony.
Great to see you.
See you next month, man. Thanks.
Have a good one. Take care, guys.
Bye.